At 2:47 p.m. on a sweltering afternoon in the Kherson region, the Ukrainian attack helicopter pilot made a decision that seemed to violate every survival instinct written in the Manual of Combat Aviation. The Mi-24 Hind, a 10-ton flying tank, descended from the relative safety of altitude to fly low and slow, straight into the engagement zone of a known Russian missile team. To the Russian operators watching through their optics, this looked like a suicide run, or a pilot who had completely lost his bearings, as the aircraft was practically begging to be shot down. The helicopter's approach over the quiet Oleski sector raised immediate questions for anyone familiar with the current frontline dynamics, as this area had seen minimal activity for months, mostly limited to sporadic artillery exchanges and drone reconnaissance. Yet here was a high-value gunship, fully loaded with 4 B-8V rocket pods, crossing into contested airspace at a dangerously low altitude where its armor offered little protection against modern air defense systems. On board, the weapon stations were packed to capacity with 80 S-8 unguided rockets, turning the aircraft into a flying magazine capable of leveling a city block. These 80mm rockets weigh 11.7 kilograms each and carry a 1.1 kilogram warhead capable of penetrating 400 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. But seeing a helicopter loaded with this much heavy ordnance in a sector with no active armored columns or fortified positions is like seeing an NFL linebacker show up to tackle a toddler. It did not make any tactical sense to the Russians on the ground. But in modern warfare, if your enemy is making a mistake that seems too good to be true, it is usually because you are the one about to fall into a trap. The Russian man-portable air defense system team, positioned in the ruins of an industrial building approximately 3.2 kilometers away, had been tracking the acoustic signature of the rotors for the past 4 minutes. This two-man team operated the 9K-38 Igla surface-to-air missile system, one of the most capable weapons in the Russian inventory for engaging low-flying targets. The system is a marvel of Soviet engineering designed to kill exactly this type of helicopter, weighing 17.9 kilograms when ready to fire and launching a 1.5-meter-long missile. The missile itself carries a 1.17 kilogram warhead containing 390 grams of high explosive, which is more than enough to shred the engine signaling of a Hind and turn the aircraft into a falling collection of burning scrap metal. However, the explosive yield is not the primary concern for the pilot. The real danger lies in the nose of the weapon. The 9M39 missile utilizes a cooled infrared seeker head that represents a significant leap forward from earlier generations like the Strela. By using a coolant system to lower the temperature of the sensor, the engineers significantly reduced background thermal noise, allowing the seeker to differentiate between the intense heat of an aircraft exhaust and the background radiation of the Earth, or at least that is how it works in the brochure. The engagement initiates when the Ukrainian pilot rolls the heavy gunship into an attack dive and unleashes all 80 rockets in a devastating ripple fire sequence that lights up the sky. The rockets streak toward the ground at 610 meters per second, but instead of converging on a specific bunker or tank, they spread across a massive 500-meter wide impact zone in what looks like a complete failure of aiming discipline. Many of the rockets splash harmlessly into the Dnipro River, sending up useless geysers of water, while others impact empty fields, churning up mud and destroying nothing but local vegetation. To an untrained observer, this appears to be panic fire or area suppression gone wrong, seemingly wasteful use of expensive munitions in a sector that did not require it. But this 500-meter spread pattern serves a specific physics-based purpose that the Russian operators failed to recognize in the heat of the moment. Not only does the barrage suppress a wide area, forcing heads down, but more importantly, it creates a massive thermal event. 80 rocket impacts create 80 separate heat sources on the ground, raising the ambient thermal signature of the entire sector. The pilot is not trying to hit a target. He is trying to paint the background with fire to confuse the sensors that are about to look for him. The Russian team follows their training manual to the letter, driven by the rigid doctrine that has defined Soviet and Russian air defense strategy for 50 years. The doctrine mandates the immediate engagement of any hostile aircraft that enters the Igla's 5.2-kilometer operational range, regardless of the broader tactical picture. The gunner checks his weapon parameters one final time, confirming that the target is valid. The Igla can engage targets traveling at speeds up to 800 meters per second, and at altitudes up to 3.5 kilometers, meaning the Ukrainian helicopter, which is flying low and bleeding airspeed during its attack run, is deep inside the kill envelope. The gunner aims northeast, an angle that reveals a crucial detail that should have stopped him cold. The helicopter has deliberately crossed the river into occupied territory, placing itself in danger for no apparent strategic gain. The Oleski area offers no troop concentrations worth this risk, and the Igla's range would not have been able to reach the helicopter if it had stayed on the Ukrainian side of the river. The pilots effectively brought the target to the weapon, a tactical anomaly that should have triggered alarm bells in the gunner's mind. But the sight of a massive Hind gunship offering its broadside is a tempting target that overrides common sense, proving that the desire for a confirmed kill often outweighs tactical caution. At precisely 2:48 p.m., just as the last of the S-8 rockets impact the mud below, the Russian operator squeezes the trigger mechanism on the gripstock. The Igla's infrared seeker has successfully locked onto the distinctive thermal bloom of the Mi-24's exhaust ports, and the missile's solid-fuel rocket motor ignites with a blinding white flash that is visible for kilometers. The missile accelerates off the rail, reaching a velocity of approximately Mach 1.9 within seconds, streaking toward its target with the cooled infrared seeker maintaining a steady lock despite the interference from the afternoon sun. Inside the cockpit, the Ukrainian pilot's SPO-15 Berioza radar warning receiver immediately screams to life, though the pilot's calm reaction suggests he was already watching the launch plume. The SPO-15 is an older but reliable system that operates across multiple frequency bands from 0.6 to 17 GHz, detecting the electromagnetic emissions from hostile radar systems and missile seekers. The system utilizes 4 antennas positioned around the aircraft airframe to provide 360-degree coverage, calculating the bearing of the threat with roughly 15 degrees of accuracy. The warning system does not just detect threats, it prioritizes them on a 16 light-emitting diode display that shows both the bearing and the relative threat level, while generating specific audio tones for each category of danger. A continuous 800 Hz tone would indicate a radar lock from a vehicle like a Pantsir or Tor system, while a pulsing 1,600 Hz tone warns specifically of a missile launch. In this instance, the distinctive high-pitched pulsing tone at 1,600 Hz confirms an infrared missile launch, which is exactly the signal the pilot was waiting for. Banking the aircraft hard to the left to mask the engine exhaust with the fuselage, the pilot simultaneously deploys countermeasures. The helicopter's UV-26 countermeasures dispensing system, mounted on the fuselage, ejects a precise pattern of 12 infrared flares in rapid succession. These flares utilize magnesium and Teflon pellets to burn at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Celsius, creating intense infrared signatures designed to seduce the incoming missile away from the engine. The timing of this countermeasure deployment turns the battlefield into a thermal nightmare for the incoming missile's guidance computer. In this instant, the seeker head is looking at a scene of chaos. Below the helicopter, 80 exploding rockets have created a wall of heat signatures on the ground, igniting dry grass and fuel residues. Above the helicopter, 12 fresh flares are blooming like miniature suns, burning hotter than the engine exhaust. The missile seeker, which was designed in the 1980s to track a single hot target against a cold sky, is suddenly facing dozens of competing high-intensity infrared sources. It is the electronic equivalent of trying to identify a single specific candle in a room where someone just set off a box of fireworks. The seeker logic lacks the modern algorithms required to discriminate between the kinetic heating of the flares and the exhaust gas of the turbines. Confused by the sudden proliferation of targets, the missile loses its lock on the helicopter, and logic gates select the brightest heat source available, guiding the weapon into a cluster of burning rocket impacts 150 meters away from the aircraft. The missile streaks harmlessly past the Ukrainian helicopter, close enough for the crew to see the smoke trail, but far enough to avoid damage from the fragmentation warhead. The missed shot was always the expected outcome of this engagement, but the Russian team does not realize that the missile was never the point. By firing their weapon, the Russian MANPADS team has effectively signed their own death warrant. The launch signature of the Igla is a brilliant infrared plume that is visible to multiple sensors across the battlespace, pinpointing their exact position in the ruined building. Ukrainian signals intelligence systems immediately triangulate the launch location by combining the thermal detection of the missile motor with the sudden spike in electromagnetic emissions from the team's radio communications as they report the engagement. This 90-second window for signal processing represents a revolution in battlefield awareness. In previous conflicts, identifying a firing position, processing the coordinates, and transmitting them to a strike asset might take 15 to 30 minutes. But Ukrainian forces have compressed this timeline through integrated software and Starlink connectivity. By the time those 90 seconds expire, the targeting data has already been formatted and transmitted to a waiting FPV drone operator positioned 8 kilometers away. This operation highlights a fundamental evolution in helicopter tactics that has emerged from the necessities of this war. Rather than avoiding air defense systems by hugging the terrain, Ukrainian pilots are now deliberately exposing themselves to draw fire, functioning as the bait in a complex hunter-killer loop. This acceptance of risk doctrine represents a complete reversal of traditional helicopter employment, where the aircraft is usually the protected asset. Instead, the pilots act as a lure, trusting in their flares and the limitations of Russian seekers to survive the encounter, all to achieve the greater goal of eliminating the enemy air defense network piece by piece. It is a calculated gamble that traditional military academies in the West would never teach, but it is proving devastatingly effective in an environment saturated with anti-air weapons. The acceptance of calculated risk transforms the Mi-24 from a potential victim into an active participant in the suppression of enemy air defenses, turning the hunters on the ground into the hunted. The Russian team begins their standard post-engagement procedure, completely unaware that an 8-minute countdown to their elimination has started. Soviet doctrine calls for immediate relocation after firing to avoid counter-battery artillery fire. In the Cold War era, this shoot-and-scoot tactic provided reasonable safety because enemy response times were measured in tens of minutes or even hours. However, the Russian team is slowed down by the physical reality of their weapon system. The 9K-38 Igla, while technically man-portable, requires several critical steps to properly stow before it can be moved. The missile's launch tube must be disconnected from the grip stock assembly to be carried effectively. The battery coolant unit, which is now expended and hot, must be safely removed and disposed of to prevent chemical burns. The thermal battery that powered the Seeker needs removal. Each component must be secured in its canvas carrying case for transport, a process that takes between 4 and 6 minutes under ideal conditions. But the conditions in the Dnipro River Delta are far from ideal. The summer rains have turned the ground around the building into thick, viscous mud that clings to boots and equipment, adding friction to every movement. A building that provided concealment and a stable firing platform now becomes a trap, as the team must navigate debris and damaged stairs while carrying nearly 18 kilograms of awkward equipment. This vulnerability window during the pack-up phase is a critical weakness that Ukrainian forces identified early in the conflict. During these few minutes, the crew is suffering from task fixation. They are looking at their equipment, managing the disassembly, and watching their footing, which means they are not scanning the sky for new threats. The distributed nature of Ukrainian operations has enabled the rapid exploitation of this window. The drone operator receives coordinates directly from signals intelligence and can engage without waiting for a battalion commander to sign off on the strike. This flat command structure compresses the decision cycle from 30 minutes to under 2 minutes, allowing the strike to be launched while the Russians are still struggling with their launch tubes. At 2:54 p.m., just 6 minutes after the failed missile engagement, the Ukrainian drone enters the final approach corridor, undetected by the very radar systems designed to protect this airspace. This is not a military-grade Predator or a high-altitude Bayraktar. It is a 7-inch carbon fiber quadcopter frame, likely assembled on a kitchen table in Kyiv for less than $500. The drone is running the Express LRS radio protocol at 915 MHz, a packet-based high-frequency link that hops channels 150 times per second to punch through the heavy electronic interference that usually grounds commercial drones in this sector. The operator, sitting safely in a bunker 8 kilometers away, views the world through the grainy, flickering static of an analog 5.8 GHz video feed. While civilian enthusiasts prefer high-definition digital video, combat pilots prefer analog for one simple reason known as latency. Digital systems have a variable delay of 30 to 40 milliseconds as they encode the image. Analog is effectively instant. When you are flying a kinetic kill vehicle at 140 kilometers per hour, that 30-millisecond delay is the difference between hitting the target and burying your drone in the dirt behind it. The drone hugs the terrain at an altitude of just 15 meters, staying well below the radar horizon of the Russian Pantsir systems scanning from the rear, effectively using the Earth's curvature as a shield. Its electric motors, spinning at 30,000 revolutions per minute, produce no thermal exhaust for infrared sensors to track, and its plastic propellers absorb rather than reflect radar waves, giving it the radar cross-section of a sparrow. Through the first-person view goggles, the operator observes the 2 Russian soldiers still at their firing position, locked in a desperate struggle against the terrain itself. The operator checks his on-screen display. Battery voltage is sagging to 3.5 volts per cell under the load of the high-speed cruise, giving him exactly 90 seconds of flight time remaining before the lithium polymer battery hits critical cutoff. He pushes the throttle to 80%. The Russians are fighting the mud of the Dnipro Delta, a thick, clay-like substance that creates a suction effect on standard-issue military boots, requiring significant physical exertion for every step. They are attempting to move the 17-kilogram Igla launch unit and its associated battery coolant cases, gripped by the psychological phenomenon of sunk cost fallacy. They know they should run, but their training mandates they save the expensive equipment, pinning them to the X marks the spot. They are completely task-saturated, their auditory processing filtered out by the sound of their own heavy breathing and the squelch of mud, leaving them deaf to the high-pitched frequency of the approaching motors. Physics dictates that high-frequency sound waves attenuate or lose energy much faster over distance than low-frequency rumbles. This means that while you can hear a tank from kilometers away, you will not hear an electric drone until it is within a 200-meter radius, usually giving you about 4 seconds of actionable warning. At 2:55 p.m., 7 minutes after firing their missile, the acoustic equation changes instantly for the Russian team. The drone pilot initiates his terminal dive, pushing the pitch stick forward and dropping the altitude to 3 meters off the deck. As the drone accelerates past 100 kilometers per hour, the sound of the propellers shifts from a distant mosquito whine into the aggressive buzz of a chainsaw. The distinctive sound triggers a primal Pavlovian response in the soldiers, a reflex carved into them by months of watching videos of their comrades being hunted. One soldier looks up, his eyes widening as he spots the small black silhouette rapidly growing larger against the gray sky. But the geometry of the engagement is already fatal. In the confined space of the ruined building's courtyard, surrounded by knee-deep mud and debris, the human reaction time of 0.25 seconds is simply not fast enough to overcome the inertia of the heavy equipment they are holding. To drop the gear, turn, and generate enough friction in the mud to sprint to cover would take at least 3 seconds. They have less than 1. The operator maintains a steady lock through the analog camera feed, fighting the prop wash turbulence generated by his own aggressive maneuvering. He makes a final micro-adjustment to the yaw axis, lining up the crosshairs not on the men, but on the space directly between them to maximize the fragmentation radius. The drone's path is true, guided by a human hand but powered by the cold certainty of mathematics. 8 minutes ago, these men fired a $40,000 missile at a $12 million helicopter, thinking they were the apex predators of this sector. The drone impacts the muddy ground between the two soldiers at 42 meters per second. The payload is not a complex factory-made warhead, but a 1.5 kilogram block of plastic explosive wrapped in a fragmentation sleeve made of simple ball bearings or chopped steel rod. The trigger is a pair of exposed copper wires in front of the camera that complete the circuit upon physical contact. The detonation velocity of the explosive exceeds 8,000 meters per second, transforming the metal casing into a localized storm of high-velocity shrapnel that shreds the soft tissue of the operators and the delicate electronics of the Igla system with equal indifference. The explosion ensures that there is one less air defense team capable of threatening the airspace, but the physical destruction is only half the victory. Within hours, intercepted communications reveal a wave of paranoia spreading through the Russian air defense network. Every team in the sector now knows that firing their weapon is essentially firing a flare gun that summons a hunter-killer drone. This psychological suppression achieves what kinetic weapons alone cannot. It creates a hesitation loop in the mind of every enemy operator, forcing them to choose between doing their job and staying alive.